Hi guys, welcome to or welcome back, whatever it might be from you, for you should I say. If you were here from like my usual content, this is very different. And I'm finally here filming it. Oh my goodness gracious. Honestly, I wanted to film this for years now. And I've tried to film this. This will be take number 3. I have 2 like drafts where I start, and then either I try to do it when Macy's asleep, she wakes up before I can finish it, our camera goes flat. The very first one, I thought, I remember everything, it's so fine. I started doing it and then I was like, shit, is that right? Is that wrong? And then this time, it's the only time I'm fully alone, so I knew I had unlimited, well, to a degree, unlimited time to actually talk, get this out, without knowing I'll have interruptions from someone. And I realized that my notepad, that I had all the details written down so I could kind of like talk through my timeline, I left it home. So I nearly went, you know what, don't worry about it, I'll do it another day and I will crack on because there's always other jobs to do. And I thought, no, just get it done. You committed to today, get it done. I can kind of remember because I only literally wrote it all out like 5-6 days ago. So if you are joining us, I'm imagining it's because either yourself has found out that IVF might be a route for you, you're thinking maybe it might be a route for you, you haven't yet seen a doctor, you have a family friend that is, or you know who I am and you just want to be a little bit nosy. So this video is purely just going to be like a little recap of like our journey to getting Macy. That was through IVF. I found that's where I kind of got into YouTube as a watcher. I never really watched much before, like might have watched a how-to video or something. And then when I got into that journey, I really wanted to know as much as possible. And so yeah, I found a few channels which Phil and Alex, American based, absolutely amazing people, and what they share is so insane. Like, I love it. I lived off of watching their videos. It's Kelsey's Life. I'm pretty sure that's what she still is. I don't know if she rebranded. Another American, really nice to watch. There really wasn't many Australians. I did, however, find Tim and Celeste, which I think her channel is Celeste something. If I can find it, I'll pop it below. She was one of the only Australians really that I could find at that point in time when I was going through it that really shared so much detail. So I guess that's kind of another reason why I want to do this video, is to be another Australian, and again from a different state to Celeste, to actually share what we went through and how we got there. Plus, a little side note, I actually really want to go for round 2. So I'm hoping I will get all of these videos out, and then hopefully if we are ready and going to do that, I will actually be able to share in real time and like day by day things of IVF living. Like that's something I would love, because honestly, like I look back at all my notes and things that I've written down, and I can remember and go back into it, but like how crazy, I know there's so much I've forgotten and haven't thought about. Like even when I read them, I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot about that. Like to have like my own little diary vlog of it would be really nice. So who am I? What's going on? I'm Alicia. I'm obviously WA based, Australian of course. And when we went through IVF, it was back in, so we originally started and thought about it in 2017. I, at that point, was 25. Yes, maybe something like that. I hadn't been on birth control for 4 years. And just nothing had happened. So I remember going to the clinic and thinking, you know, like, yep, let's see. They kind of gave us a first step that we had to do, which was on Jason's behalf. They wanted a test done on him. The more we thought on it, the more we sort of went down, because we were not yet married, and I did really want to be married before having children, and that's kind of why we did the IVF pathway, because I thought, I know these things take time, let's find out what they say. And that kind of played a part in our decision as well. Like, did I want to have a wedding? Did I want to pay for IVF? Because Lord knows it's not cheap. And what sort of that go was, which for us, well, for me anyway, because just like, I don't really mind, like, it'll be what it'll be. I thought in the sense of, okay, if we choose to pay for IVF and not have a wedding and just like elope, or something extremely small and inexpensive, I don't have a guarantee with IVF. Like, I'm not guaranteed to walk away with a child. I could choose to do a wedding and wait to do IVF. And that is essentially what I did. So we chose at that point we wouldn't go ahead with Jason's test. I know there was a lot of pressure on him as well, which would have played a part. And so yeah, we got married. So fast forward, we got married in 2017. We obviously needed to wait to save a little bit of money. And come 2018, that's when we hit the ground running. So I got the referral in February. Because in Australia you have to see a GP first, get that referral. You have to prove where you have been, well, not really prove, but you know, you need to wait 12 months of trying before you can go down that route. We were definitely past that 12 months. And so we got the referral to see a local clinic. I say local, it's still an hour and a half, but down south, because that was also the other issue that I found. Every clinic was Perth based. Perth for us is 3 hours away, and then when you're talking like higher up northern suburbs, like 3.5, 4 hours through traffic, which is a long way. Like if you're in the midst of IVF, you know that your likelihood traveling for appointments like multiple times a week. I was working full time, Jace was working full time, which was just something that wouldn't really have been achievable. But in the same token, you also like, you want it so bad, so you'll make anything work. Anyway, off subject. So yeah, we got the ball running. So what ended up happening for our journey? I completed, I say 7 rounds. Now rounds in some people's eyes are very different. So to me, 7 rounds means we tried to implant an embryo 7 times. Rounds to other people mean how many times did you do an egg retrieval. So for us, we transferred 7 times using 8 embryos. That's what it took to get Macy. In that time frame, I had a laparoscopy and hysteroscopy. We found that I have there's 4 different categories, like low, medium, severe, and something else. High, severe. I had high endometriosis. So obviously that was a benefit to do that surgery. That was an exploratory surgery based on the fact of having 3 failed transfers. We decided to do that to see if we could figure, was there another underlying, because as far as all other tests that had come back on me, nothing was really showing why. On Jason's end, we do have, what do you want to say? I don't like the word, because I get asked this and I think, really? You really just asked? They'll be like, so who's the problem? And I've even had afterwards be like, oh, it's okay, like, it's okay that you're the problem. And I'm like, sorry, what? Like when I've told some people like I had endometriosis, they're like, oh, so it's you're the issue. No, there is no issue, there is no problem. There are pieces to a puzzle that we need to put together and fix to get there. So word of advice, if you are someone who knows someone going through this, please don't ask them if they're the problem and what's the problem. Just say, oh, you know, what's causing the issue? Or actually even that, what, you know, have they found a cause of why it's not successful? So I don't know. Think of your wording. not problem. Yes, on Jason's side, which causes us to need to do Tessie, which is surgically remove sperm. So he did his part in that first February. He got the easy job. He got to do that once, and that's it. That's all he's had to do again since, besides being my support person. Because obviously when they did that, they made sure they got enough for not just one round. So yes, we did 7 rounds or 7 transfers, 8 embryos. I did that surgery. Also to do that, I did 3 egg retrievals. Not I. And so in Australia, like, I've noticed the numbers for us of egg collection is a lot lower. Like I see American pages and they're like, oh, you know, I've just retrieved 28 eggs. And I'm like, what? Because for us over here, I'm pretty sure I remember like the maximum you could have before they stated you were in OHSS, which is ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And if that gets too bad, like you'll be hospitalized, like you have to treat, you cannot do a fresh transfer. It was like 16 with my clinic. So I used to find it crazy, like, yeah, they'd go, oh, you know, I've got 28 eggs, of that, like 20 are mature, and we fertilized, 16 are fertilized, and so they end up with a lot higher embryo number. But anyway, that's different countries. But I guess if you're Australian based and reading those numbers, like don't feel disheartened, because every country is different and it is what it is. So yes, we did the 3 egg retrievals. My clinic also would only do 3-day embryo transfers. So that was another part in the journey where I ended up having to really advocate for what I wanted, because we were seeing no success with it. Like, I'm talking, out of all those transfers, out of the 8 embryos, only 3 were over 3 days old, and 2 of them I fell pregnant on. 1 didn't result in anything, and just nothing on the 3-day one. So that's kind of where it came to, yeah, we were continuously seeing nothing. So I obviously advocated for doing blastocysts, which my embryologist was very sweet. I cannot thank enough our clinic, and especially the embryologist who was the clinic's owner. Like, I've never felt so at ease with someone and really cared for, and not just a number. Like, he was amazing. The 2 doctors, one I quite liked, one I didn't. But I feel like that's what you're gonna get anywhere. It's, you know, if it was something like really serious, it's just, I didn't click with him. He wasn't mean or nasty. I remember he made a comment one day and I thought, oh God. It was like one of our first ones, and he's like, oh, what day in your cycle are you? And I get it now. I get now of going through so much of the IVF world, like why that to him was like such a simple question and something he expected I would have known. But at that point in time, while I tracked my cycle, I didn't count like every day, like I'm cycle day this, because my cycles are not like set on the 20th of every month I will get a period or something like that. Mine kind of like fluctuate a little, but always sort of within, you know, 28 to 34 days. So yeah, and when I said, oh, I didn't know, he kind of like huffed at me. And I think that was what instantly put me off him, was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't really know how to take him, in the sense of like, it's such a sensitive subject. I didn't expect that from a doctor who was first dealing with us, like, because that was our initial consult. So fast forward, so we did the whole of 2018, like I kind of back to back was like, go, like I want this baby. So February was Jace doing his, obviously, you know, you've got to give the time cycle. I think by April I had done my first egg collection. We did a fresh transfer. We then moved on to, I did a back-to-back FET, frozen embryo transfer, which obviously first one failed. Second one is where we had a 6-day embryo and I fell pregnant. I remember being so excited. I thought, you know what, happy days, like it happened. Here we go. So I did my first blood test, and I didn't get great numbers, had to be above 25, and I remember it was like 21. And so she did say, like, you know, congratulations, but I'm just gonna say, like, it's low, it is concerning. We'll see you again, we'll hear from you again in a couple of days after your next one. And you know, I'm very patient. I didn't wait, and I had done pee on the stick tests. And the worst part about that was the day that it like finally came up like fully positive, but it never was like super dark, and that's just it. That's where like I'd seen it, but I'd obviously never seen a positive pregnancy test either, so I didn't know how dark it would go, like what would actually happen if it was this successful pregnancy. And that's where I was finding I was doing those tests and they just remained the same. Nothing got darker, nothing changed. And so I guess in my mind, I kind of thought, this is not what it's saying online, like everyone else's experience. But I was also very much like, this is my experience, I won't wrap myself up in it. And yeah, I got the second phone call, and unfortunately it had dropped, so it did mean I had a chemical pregnancy. That was probably one of the hardest things to go through. Like, it was insane. I remember at that time, when I got the first positive pregnancy test was on Jason's birthday. And then after that, when I was going through the miscarriage, I had people staying and whatnot, and it was just really not fun. Fast forward, I took a tiny break, not much, but I think I took like a month and a half off of like, you know what, I just need to get back to normal. And then I cracked back on into it. We did that second egg retrieval. So first one I got 7 eggs, and of 2 which made it, so 1 to 3 day, 1 to 6 day. The next time again 7, and from that we got 3. So we did again fresh, and with my clinic you have to have done a minimum 3 transfers to be considered for a double transfer. After the third one though, like, we were very much keen to do a 2 transfer, but I also didn't want to risk keep losing embryos if there was more underlying. So I remember Bondi protocol was not very big over here, but I'd heard so much about it over East and obviously internationally. So I asked my doctor about that. And the MTF-FHR gene. So that is a blood condition, and Bondi protocol treats like NK cells, which is natural killer cells. Basically, NK cells, like natural killer cells, mean as soon as there's something inside of you that they don't like, they'll just kill it. And so you take prednisolone and clexane to try and stop that, blood thinners and a steroid. The other MTF-HR, I wanted to know that because I did know that my auntie suffered from blood clotting disorder, and she had also done IVF. And I was reading the results for this the other day, and I was thinking, why didn't I question that more? So my NK cells came back lower than they should have been. Like, there's a guide, which I'll go well more into detail to all of these. I'm actually going to do like segments. So this is just kind of like a recap of what happened. And then I'm actually going to go through each individual transfer, what we did, how, and the questions and whatnot that came up. So yeah, I remember I was reading the results of that going like, why did I not question it more? Like, they were like, oh yeah, your results should be between blah, 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 and blah, 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 but you're actually below that. Like, I don't know, like, surely that's oh, okay, so something's wrong here as well, or not necessarily wrong, but like, how does that impact? Like, if it's too low, does that also impact? And same with the MTF-HR, like, there was a guide of, there's 2 different ones that they did, and in both of them, I was lower, so I don't know. I guess that's a question I'll have for when we do round 2, being like, oh, by the way, I went back through my results and seen this, like, can we talk? Because when I got those, I then didn't have a follow-up with the doctor again. It was all communication through the nurses, and we just always kept ticking along with cycles. And I think because those were tests the doctors didn't actually want, it was something I wanted, they weren't as like interested in it and whatnot. So yes, we went through the next one, did that retrieval, got the 7 from that. We had 3 embryos to use. but they actually froze them at 3 day. So we did a fresh 3-day transfer again, and then they froze the other 2 at 3 days. Like, I didn't have the option to get them to go to blastocyst. That's just what they did. And that is when we did obviously the fresh one didn't work, failed again. I think after that, I remember taking no, I didn't. I then decided to go back to back again, because I thought, okay, well, I went back to back when the 6-day, like the number 2 transfer worked. Like, maybe if I go back to back, I'll get that again. We did the 2, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was after this that I decided, you know what, I need a break. I need a break from all these hormones. I need a break from the stress. I want to have our relationship, like, just have a little bit of a breather. And so, yeah, we took a bit of time off then. From memory, it was, no, it wasn't Christmas time. No. Was it? Yeah, I think it was Christmas, or it had just been, or something. This is why I should have had my notebook with all my things. In saying that though, I think I took like a total of 4 weeks of like absolutely not speaking to the clinic or anything like that. And then I slowly started reaching out. Like, I reached out to be like, hey, what are the appointments looking like, and what will the retrieval dates be for? I think it was in 2 and 3 months time. In that time, we also sought out Jason going to a urologist to see if we could get any more answers there. There was nothing. It's so unexplained. Yeah, we kind of took the fact that we had what we needed to do IVF and to get what we wanted, well, what we hoped for, that we kind of just went, okay, it is what it is. Like, they couldn't change it. There was no recommendations on their end in like, hey, if you do X, Y, Z, maybe it'll work. There was just I'm not sure why, sorry. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I started reaching out to them. Once we got that sort of answer, then I knew, obviously, yep, okay, it means I'm gonna have to do another retrieval. So we then, that's when I think I had said to them, like, I want to do Bondi protocol. Like, I want that. I'd like, give me the full hog. And I remember him saying yes to the blood thinner, but no to the steroid. Which I took. I was like, okay, look, something, like, we've got to do something different. Like, we're now at embryo number 5 being done. 6. We'd used up 6. Like, surely there's something we can do. And then I did my egg retrieval. We changed this time as well though. Like, this is where, and it's the doctor that I actually really liked. It was his idea. He said, look, if it's not working, we're not getting the ideal. And we never were getting any more embryos. Like, we always just got 7. He said, like, even that, he wanted to get that higher, so we had a better chance, because we had a really good fertilization. We would get 90%. So every time out of the 7, if the first one, we only fertilized 6. The next one egg wasn't mature. So he was like, you know, you get really great fertilization. They all would live to be past, well, at that stage, that they would all live to 3 days, do sort of what they needed. Some would be a bit slower, and that's how we got the 6-day one, which in hindsight, looking at it, obviously had a, what is the terminology? Like, it obviously was never going to progress. So, yeah, he suggested I do a long down reg cycle. So it's where they like postpone your cycle as such. You can take this nasal spray and it goes for a longer period, rather than like waiting on yours, which my clinic actually does birth control prior, so then they can actually like pick the dates, because they would only do surgeries like egg collection on certain days that had to fit in their timeline. It couldn't just be whenever you naturally were going through it. So yeah, I had to do it where it was long down, so it was a much longer cycle, and that they thought potentially would give a better result. So we did that. At this point though, to do one of these cycles, it was more based on my body, so I no longer could go down south to have the egg collection. I had to do it up in Perth with their, I guess it was called like a sister clinic, like where the doctors were primarily based was actually in Perth, and then this other clinic sourced them to come down and do it once a month for them as well. So I had to go to their Perth one, which didn't bother me, although it did mean I obviously had fees at my clinic and fees with them. So it did make it a little bit more expensive, but not too much more. And I obviously then had to do my retrieval up there, so all of that, which, oh my God, when I tell you that story of that retrieval in whatever video that comes in, that was so stressful. I've never been so stressed out in my life. So yes, we did that, and I got 14 eggs. The best I'd ever had. I remember waking up, because how sweet, when I first woke up in Albany, the very first time they wrote on my hand how many I had got. And I remember the second time I'd asked them to, I said, oh, can you write? They did it last time, can you write it? And then same in Perth, I said, hey, can you please write on my hand what I've got? And they obviously didn't do that, because they were like, oh, okay, cool, like no worries. And it was so sweet. They wrote the 14 and then good luck on it. And I was beyond thrilled. I was so excited. Like, we would double what we'd ever got. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, yes, we can bank some embryos. Amazing. We have so many chances now without me having to come back for another egg collection. I was wrong. So I didn't get to have my usual embryologist that had given us amazing fertilization every time. And I remember they rang me the second day and said, hey, 2 have fertilized. Jace looked at my face, knew it was not great news. And I was just like, what the hell? And I remember that call specifically because she turned around and told me when I was like, wait, what, 2? And she was like, yeah. She's like, but that's usually like the case with frozen sperm. Like, you're not guaranteed a very good, like it normally is a lower fertilization. And I remember inside of me the anger that came out. And I turned to her and said, really? I was like, okay. I said, so this is my 3rd egg retrieval. I have used frozen sperm every single one. I've never had the ability to use fresh, and I have a 90% fertilization rate. I was like, so please don't turn around and tell me it's because of that. In my mind, I want to say it's because of her skill set, but it could also be the fact we did a down reg. Like, maybe my egg quality, like, I don't know, like we got the best amount of eggs, but then we didn't get the fertilization. So I don't know in what part fell down a little, but that's okay. This is where after I'd spoken to the embryologist already and said, I will not do a 3-day transfer if you are not willing to push and wait till 5 days. Like, I didn't want to go ahead with that retrieval, and my embryologist was so sweet and was like, you know what, I have every faith in our equipment to be able to get there, because that's the whole point of why they originally said they do 3 days, is because a lot of, I want to say evidence, but it's not actually what he said, was like some will survive better in the body than they will outside of it. So that's why they like to get it back in the body as soon as possible. And when I said to him, like, it's just not working, I want to like reduce the risk of loss. If, you know, we've done that now 6 times, it's not worked, like, please can we try something else? And so we've done 6 embryos, 5 transfers. And he said, like, yeah, he's like, I have every confidence in my equipment that is like, if it can survive in your body, I believe it will survive in my equipment. So he was more than happy to wait and do the 5 days. I was obviously, with that, you have to be aware that it's likely you're going to lose more, and it could be the fact, like, you can't then go, what if, like, oh, if I put it back in, maybe they were right and the 3-day would have survived in me, or you know, like, that's the risk you take. And I remember after I got that phone call with like 2 have survived, and that was like the day after, I was thinking, oh shit. Like, I've opted for this 5-day thing Like, what if neither of them survive? I've just done an egg collection. Not for nothing, because one, it would have then showed me like, can I get them to 5 day, or are they all gonna die off after 3 days? But I remember thinking like spiraling, going like, we normally get 6, we normally have at least 6, and from that the most we've ever got is 3. Like, we literally have 2. Like, how is this going to convert to our baby? So yes, we did a 5-day fresh transfer. I didn't really want to. I do remember that. I remember thinking fresh have never worked, but then I also went, I've never done a 5-day fresh, so like, I will try anything new. And I was also, yes, this time I got to do part of the Bondi, so I got to be on the blood thinner. It didn't work again. Didn't work again. In saying that though, the other embryo did survive, and we got to freeze it. So at least I knew I had one in the bank. I can't lie though, I was feeling very disheartened. I honestly thought if I got this 5-day blastocyst that looked amazing, and it was the first time ever actually. That's another interesting part, is we will sometimes get shown the embryo like in the screen or in the room. They would maybe pop it up on a monitor. But I don't think they even did that. I think every time they would just tell me, oh yeah, all is looking really good. And then I think I could see them suck it up, like, so it was like a live video. Versus when I went to Perth, I actually got to see on a laptop our embryo, like a snapshot of it. And so I obviously got to take a picture of that. So, you know, like all those really cute ones of like, oh, the embryo, and then they do the scan picture together. Like, I've never had the opportunity to do that. In saying that, I never actually asked if I could take a picture of the screen, but I also felt like it was the environment, like, I don't know, that I shouldn't, because versus when they're like, oh, use your embryo on the laptop, and left the laptop there open while I got undressed and whatnot, like that felt applicable. And I remember saying, can I take a picture? So yeah, like there's pros and cons to both clinics. So yes, we did, so we got on to transfer number 7. The 5-day-old blastocyst in a feed. I remember after the 5-day fresh, I did take a break, because I kind of thought, you know, well, I've done a few back to back and that still hadn't, like, maybe I need to give my body a little bit of a rest. And I'll take that month's retrieval off, that month's cycle off, and I'll come back the next. I wanted again to, I said, you know, is there really no possibility of me trying the Bondi? Like, you know, can it hurt to try? Like, we've done everything else. And my doctor agreed. So I did. God, it was a lot, man. I remember looking at what I was taking, and because my lining also, when we did frozen embryo transfers, we'd always get to the first ultrasound to check the lining, and it would never be enough. And I'd always end up having to up my estrogen. So again, okay, try again. I've never had that before, my camera overheated. Yes, so my lining would never be where it needed to be. So I remember again learning and going, you know what, it's never where it is when you guys do the second scan, so please, can we up my estrogen before? Like, let's not wait until we get to the scan, see it's not where it needs to be, and then try and amp it up in the last bit of time. Like, can we get it as thick as we want it? Which, you know, was normally, I think normally I'd average, like, I'd just scrape in. I remember one time being like, ooh, I think it needs to be minimum 8, or like they liked it to sit between 6 and 10. No, 7 and 10, I think. And yeah, like I just scraped over like 7.2 or something. Anyway, so yes, thankfully, like, me learning and whatnot also meant that happened as well. So I got to be on a higher dose from the beginning. And yes, when I finally went for my scan, I mean, it wasn't like, whoo, amazing, but I also didn't get to the point where they're like, shit, we've got to up it again. I actually have a funny story in relation to estrogen and cycles. I remember once it was like that. They said, and I feel like maybe it was when we did the double one, I can't remember. Rang going, oh look, it's not where it needs to be, I want you to up it. And I was in a shopping centre and I tucked myself away in a quiet spot. And the girl that was doing it was pregnant at the time, the nurse. And she said to me, okay, you've got to up it to 4 milligrams each dose. So 4 milligrams 4 times a day. I didn't register she was saying milligrams. She didn't register I was saying tablets. And so I said, okay, so 4 tablets 4 times a day. She's like, yeah. And I knew she wasn't just like understand. She's like, yeah, 4 milligrams 4 times a day. They were 2 milligram tablets. And I remember like, cause I was like, so I'm taking 4 tablets 4 times a day. And she was like, yeah. And I remember getting off going, I don't know if she understood me about, you know what, she said yes twice. And it wasn't until I went for the transfer and I was like, so do I have to continue taking like the 4 tablets 4 times a day? Like it's a lot, like I'm feeling a lot of side effects. Like it's, and I remember the other nurse going, you're taking 4 tablets 4 times a day. And I was like, yeah. She's like, no, you're supposed to be taking 4 milligrams. She's like, these are 2 milligram tablets. So it's 2 tablets 4 times a day. And I was like, oh my God. And so like, obviously then I went into panic again going, if this transfer doesn't work, like, is it because of that? And that transfer didn't work, but we'll never know if it was because of that. So that is a big hint I have is communication. And if you were not sure they heard, it does not hurt to ask again and again and again and keep advocating for yourself in the right way. Like, I honestly think if I had been like, no, I want to do the Bondi protocol, I want to try it, or they probably would have flat out been like, no, I've said no, and that's all it is. Versus they're like, look, let's try this way first and get there. So yeah, we did that transfer. I was on the massivest cocktail of all cocktails. There was antibiotics, estrogen, progesterone, patches, estrogen patches, blood thinners, steroids. I felt like, I'm sure there's more I could have added, but I felt like I was on it. But I don't know if it was the fact we did a long down reg, whether the fact it was a frozen embryo, the fact it was a 5-day, whether adding that steroid in helped, I don't know, but we finally got there. They kept telling me, like, we're so sorry, but it's a numbers game, it's all trial and error, like, we know that. And because I didn't have something specific, like we had endometriosis, so okay, so get rid of that. I did the lap and the HISC. There was nothing realistically on either side to give us a reason like of what we're trying to combat to get there. So yeah, lucky number 7, transfer, embryo number 8, we got there. It was a wild journey, to say the least, but I loved it. The only thing is, like, I love being consumed by something as well though, and IVF well and truly it consumes you. Like, honestly, I watched like every YouTube video I could find of it in the 2-week wait. Wow, that 2-week wait, I think you can almost go stir crazy. And I also, certain things that I did that helped me, because obviously for me knowledge was power, and made me be able to have a bit of control, I guess, or understanding in a field where I didn't really know enough, or felt I didn't. There is Facebook groups. So my clinic didn't have a Facebook group. However, my friend who was actually going through IVF at the exact same time as me, her clinic did, so she joined me to that. Lucky for her though, she was one of the lucky ones that got first shot. But yeah, so like that was another interesting one to obviously hear how she was doing things through her clinic and her experiencing, and obviously getting to have that successful outcome like straight away. There is also like online communities. I'll try and remember it, but I'll link it below. They were really like, they have all different segments, and you can join the different chats for like, there'll be people going through IVF that month, or people going through like, you know, the pregnancy or a frozen embryo transfer. Like, there was so many chats, and I remember reaching out on there a couple of times as well. That's probably more where I'd heard of the Bondi protocol and things like that. And a lot more people going into depth about their cycles and that. What else was there? YouTube was a big one, Facebook and that. And then obviously like the IVF community is like so big, and so I honestly can't say I found someone from the IVF world where I've reached out and, you know, like try to communicate that was mean at all. Like the biggest hearts, I think, because we know how hard it is. So like you do have that special place for other people in your heart. But yeah, that to a degree is a recap of our story. Like I said, I actually want to sit down and do like cycle 1 and then each transfer that followed, and, you know, sort of a bit more in depth around medications, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, this is the first one of an introduction of hello. Not welcome to the IVF world. I was a part of it. 2020 was the last year that oh yeah, that's right, COVID had hit by then. I remember, yes, the clinics were all shutting down and whatnot. We just scraped in before our clinic shut down for like a decent period of time because it was deemed non-essential. Which to those in the IVF world, like it wouldn't have mattered so much for me because my age, like I was okay. I had a couple more years, but those that were at the end of theirs, I remember the stress that it was putting on them to go, okay, if this shuts down for 12 months or however long, because we had no idea, like they were then past their age bracket that they like you to be in. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. There's so much to share on it, and I feel like I've missed so much, and I'll probably go to edit this and be like, oh, you missed that, or you missed this, but that's why I want to do the series thing, because I actually have an entire box, that's how long I did it for, full of all the medications and plans and appointments and whatnot that we did, that I want to go through. So if you like this video, please do a thumbs up. If you also like gardening and other things, come along and join me. And yeah, hopefully the next one won't be too far away, but I also don't want to bombard my channel with just IVF. As much as that's what got me into infertility, this channel is very much me, and me right now is a massive gardener, a mum, home renovator. I'm in a different location, and hopefully the video is not too echoey because I'm renovating our house to put some tenants in. So anyway, that's different. I will see you guys in the next video, whatever that may be, and I hope you enjoyed this. Please feel free to leave some comments, you know, if there's other channels that you also, or like channels, like as in YouTube channels or media or whatnot channels that you utilized while you were going through it or are going through it, for anyone else out there. And if you are going through it, my heart is truly with you. I wish nothing but success. Everyone deserves to be able to be a parent should they want to. So yeah, bye guys.